I'm Jay Howley. I've taken Commarts this year, and this is my springboard project, battling burnout through cartooning. This is Maw, 32 pages of hand-drawn comics. It's a love letter to the medium of comics and classic science fiction, and it was crafted over the course of 6 months, starting in July of 2020, ending in February-March of 2021. Why a comic book for this project? Three main events sort of acted as the catalyst for this. The first one was Peter Burley, class of 2020, introducing me to a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, detailing the creation of Alejandro Jodorowsky's, or maybe lack thereof, creation of his failed Dune production into a movie, and that got me to read Dune and get really more into classic science fiction as a whole. While this was happening, I burned out. I had been creating a fine arts portfolio throughout the end and middle of 2020 for my application to a few art schools. And I was completely done with fine arts. Could not do anymore. I felt like the well had run dry. I was done. And the third and final project, or piece that sort of came together to form this project, was us going virtual for winter of 2021. I was at home and I had too much time on my hands, and I already had 2 pages of this book that I had started, and it was just open. It's not fine arts, it's something new, and so I sort of just leapt at the chance to really work on something independent of the school, not for an assignment, just all on my own. This is before it became a springboard. So the story itself details a conflict between like a human character and an alien character on this alien world. There's no text. It's completely through drawings. So at the beginning of the story, we see the alien being formed. He emerges out of the land. Please note that the pages displayed here are not the entire book. This is like an abridged version. So we're skipping around. There's a conflict between the two. Human views the alien as a threat. They fight. Tragedy strikes. They both, unfortunately, meet their end, are absorbed into the earth, and then become part of the same bigger, grander scheme of things. And then the story repeats itself. The story in itself is cyclical in structure and nature. And happens over the course of 32 pages, all of which were hand drawn on 6x10 Bristol paper. So this whole work was kind of a love letter to everything I had been absorbing over quarantine. I just started to really absorb and take in as much media. I was reading a lot. At any given time, I'm usually reading 4 or 5 books differently. And I was watching a lot of movies too. And so in here we see these 4 main influences that sort of went into this project. Dune by Frank Herbert, of course, which is a fantastic work. The Lighthouse by director Robert Eggers. The drawings of Jean Giraud Mobius. And The Six Voyages of Lone Sloan by Philippe Drouillet. And so I started with these 4, not really knowing where the project was going to go. I was working in spreads, so I was going page by page with no real plan of what was going to happen. I was trying to make each page look cool, but not really try to make the more cohesive piece that it turned out to be. So starting with these main influences, as I went and I built the book out, it snowballed. And more stuff added on and added on and added on until eventually all of the influences I had recorded and came back to ended up on this list. So this is about the same. It has a lot of the same ones. It's just a bigger pool. This one includes a lot of art, comics. There's a lot of writing, as well as even some music. I found Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 by Richard D. James. Aphex Twins sort of brought a lot of visuals. The whole visual of the character being formed in the beginning that you saw, that kind of came about by the building of his soundscapes, which I found to be very inspiring. And so through all these influences, they sort of built and came together to make the characters of the book. Now, these characters I've been doodling and sketching since my sophomore year of high school, just in homework and notebooks and stuff. And so as they've grown, it's kind of been great to be able to just do something with them finally. So we see over here, this character started originally as kind of a cyberpunk concept with like this helmet with the big buggy eyes, which kind of stayed as like the only constant throughout this entire design. And it even became like a bug for a little bit, spaceman, pharaoh, until he finally came to the character that we see in the books. Throughout, it's influenced quite a bit by Doctor Who, the Ood in the early versions, Abe Sapien from Hellboy, if anyone's familiar with that, fantastic, as well as Henry and Molly from Ezra Clay Daniels, fantastic work, Upgrade Soul, as well as some Star Wars concept art and the Moloids from Marvel Comics. And so as this project evolved, a more difficult character design found itself in the human character, because we have a basis for what humans should look like, and so I can't exactly go as crazy with this as I could with the alien character. So through this, he began sort of like as a nomad, a robot, going through, became more of a oppositional, antagonistic force, calling back into some more colonial dress. We have a conquistador up here, some British redcoats, and then I eventually went back into those that archive of Mobius and the drawings of from Invincible, the Robert Kirkman comic. Ryan Ottley did the illustration for that, and that the character of Thrag, as well as Nolan Grayson, became the inspiration for this human character, as well as drawings from Luther Strode, as well as Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. In making the pages individually, before I'd been doing spreads all on their own. This was one of the originals. So this spread was meant just to be visually stunning on its own. So I started out with, and like as the pencils move from rough sketch to fully fleshed out inks, a lot of decisions were made, especially like if you see up in this statue, this character originally had, or not a character, but the statue had 3 eyes, like horns, gills, all this crazy stuff, and it was eventually pared more down into a crumbling statue of a human. And so it was sort of this process of paring down and sort of shaving off from this giant mass of influences that we saw previous. So following my creation of these 32 pages of comics, I had to actually build the book, which I did not anticipate. But that was good because this is when it became my springboard. So I had to figure out how to make this a commercial product. This was no longer just a love letter. This was something to be bought and sold, which was really cool. So before we could get to the product that you see here on this slide, we had to do all of this. Quite a bit. So everything from cleaning and scanning pages, coming up with a title, which was a lot harder than you would think, and then designing a cover. We went through 3 different versions for that. And then I had to add 4 more pages into the book in the middle, which was also a challenge because I had to go back and my style had advanced in the process. And so 2 months later, after I had drawn the pages, I had to put in 4 new ones and try and figure out the sort of stylistic choices I would have made at that point in time in my work and try and replicate that to make it look consistent. And then along with that, we designed stickers for the book, bagged and boarded the first 20 copies that we sold, as well as adding custom illustrations to each book, which you see with the little Yeti guy down here. And then finally adding printing details for the final production. I was really fortunate to have been able to use the Long Blue Line to reach out and connect with an alumni, Ms. Peggy Burns, class of '92. Um, Ms. Burns is the head publisher of Drawn and Quarterly, based out of Montreal, and I was able to sit down and talk to her for quite a bit about comics, the publishing industry, what goes into it, how it works, the ins and outs of not just comics, of the publishing industry as a whole. It was really enlightening and a fantastic experience. And I just wanted to say thank you, give a little shout out in this. I'm very grateful. It was a really awesome opportunity to be able to use this Long Blue Line to sit down and speak with someone so well versed and well read and well informed in the whole spectrum hemisphere of comics. That was really, really amazing. So what I took away from this experience, this was a great learning. This was a big learning experience for me, where the first and foremost, I got a more advanced knowledge of visual storytelling as a whole, where I had to cut everything out of this I had to cut all the text. And there was no speech, no nothing. Everything was visual. And so I had to convey and really translate what I was thinking and what I was trying to say onto the paper. And so it was learning a new language almost, a completely visual one. As I said in my talk with Miss Burns and just in my production, I was able to get a higher understanding of publishing and comics as a whole, which I think was really enlightening and really, really exciting as a whole. Just as an entire experience was really awesome to just keep learning. I love to learn about publishing and just creating as a whole, like as a process, as a linear process. And through that, I gained a better understanding of my creative voice and process. And this is coming from burnout to, like, as I said, excited to be doing what I'm doing. And this was a really awesome 180 that I was able to do from just taking a break from all the fine arts I'd been doing at the time and just jumping into this. And it really renewed my passion for creating, why I create, why I do what I love. And for that, I have everyone that helped me along this path, and Ms. Pixler to thank for this Commarts. This was really an amazing experience. I want to say thank you.